So I believe that we are already live. All right. So a very warm good evening to everyone who have joined us live today. I welcome you back once again to a fresh and a very insightful session today on a topic which we usually don't take up, but it has been so much all across the news, so much all across the social media that we had to have a session on this one. And that is nothing other than this Comet 3I Atlas. So before we go and dive deeper into what is happening with this 3i Atlas, what it actually is, what is all the fuss about, let me just give you a quick tour of what we are doing actually in the month of November. So people who are constantly following us and joining our sessions, you are already aware we had a very exciting session of this sticky lunar dust, which was something about the moon dust, and a very exciting experiment that we did. So that was already last week. I believe that people who might have joined, they already are aware of that. This week, we have this session on 3i Atlas. And in the next week, we'll have a very exciting DIY-based session on the Curiosity rover, one of the most flagship rovers that we have ever sent to any planet. And based on whatever you learn in all these three sessions, we are going to have a mega quiz through the Kahoot platform for you on 28th of this month. So for people who are not aware, this mega quiz is something which you can easily sign up for. People who are already members, you know what to do, but who are not, you can go to the Spacetopia website over here. And when you're coming for the first time, you can register. It's completely free of cost, and you can participate in this quiz. If you are able to win the quiz, we have very exciting prizes which are waiting for you, and certificates will also be given to the top three winners. So, in order to make sure that you are actually acing the quiz and to maximize your chances of winning the quiz, make sure that you attend all these three sessions. If by chance you have not attended the last one, we still have the recorded in our Spacetopia platform right here, so you can go back and watch it out. But today, let's dive deep into what we have to discuss, something very special which is happening around our planet, and that is the Comet 3i Atlas. Now, if you look at the social media, the news, and everything, then the most prominent thing that you will get when you search for 3i Atlas is that, is this an alien spaceship? Well, it might be or it might not. That is why we have the session today, to clear out the facts, myths, and the mysteries which are associated with this. When you go on the internet, you will find literally hundreds of articles. So it has been all across the news. It's been a breaking news, various articles which are coming up regarding the Tri-Atlas, regarding its path, regarding the way it is coming. Sometimes it's increasing its speed, sometimes it's changing its brightness or the colors. Lot of things which are going on all across the news. Basically, all of them point towards one thing: mysterious object which is zooming through our solar system, and we are expecting it as an alien object because of some very exciting and some very mysterious kind of behavior that that object is showing. So let's start with how it all actually began. So what happened is that on 1st of July of this year itself, astronomers spotted a fast-moving object through the Atlas telescope, which is located in Chile in South America. So people who are not aware, Atlas is actually a group of telescopes all across the world, radio telescopes, which collect information about the objects which are moving around in our solar system, in our galaxies, and it basically sends us the information. So we found a fast-moving object and we thought that, oh, this object is behaving a bit different when compared to the normal asteroids, the normal comets, which actually come across our solar system. And that's what piqued the interest of all the scientists, the astronomers, and everyone just went crazy about it. So, after certain observations, after properly seeing that what that object was, actually they could conclude that it was behaving like a comet. So it was given the name based on how we name comets which come far from our solar system. So now this word 3i Atlas actually came from the way these objects are named. So do let me know in the chat. I can see that many people are actually very interested to know whether it's actually an alien object or not. But before we go to that, let me know that if there is any other object that has behaved in a similar manner in the past. Have we actually found any other object, any other interstellar object that has actually come from outside our solar system and that has behaved slightly differently from the objects that we usually see in our solar system? Do let me know in the chat and I will see if anybody is able to answer. With that put out the way, let's look at how the naming was done. So 3 actually refers to third such object. Since it was third such object which was discovered, and that actually gives you a clue for the question that I just asked. So you must have 2 such objects that already have been actually discovered in our solar system. Do let me know in the chat. I comes from the word interstellar because these all are coming from very far away from our solar system, basically outside the solar system, from the interstellar void, and that is why the name interstellar. Since it was the Atlas telescope that was involved in the detection, therefore the name Atlas, and together the name 3i Atlas was given. So now whenever you see anybody watching just a reel or a short or a long video on this 3i Atlas, or you're just coming across an article, you at least know what that exactly means, and you in fact should be able to name any fourth such object if it even comes into our solar system. But before we proceed, I told you that we gave it the name on this manner because it was behaving like a comet. So that brings us the question that what is a comet? Well, a comet is a frozen ball of ice, gas, and dust orbiting the sun. Basically, it's a rock in very simple layman's language. That rock is actually made up of ice, gas, and dust. Agreed. But whenever I talk about comets, you must have seen that whenever you search for comets, whenever you look at photos and videos, you always find a very bright central kind of structure. And then there is that long tail, which appears very beautiful, isn't it? And some of you might be aware that the length of that tail also varies. Sometimes it's long, sometimes it's short, and all that thing. So where is that tail? If I just said that a comet is actually made up of ice, gas, and dust. Well, the tail is something that the comet doesn't naturally carry. It gets formed as that rock actually moves close to the sun. So when it moves close to the sun, due to the heat and the solar wind of the sun, these materials start to vaporize. That means they start to sublimate. There is a process called sublimation. Okay, so do let me know in the chat if you are aware of the word sublimation and what it exactly means. Okay. Meanwhile, I can see that some of you have actually answered that there was 2 objects which have been earlier detected in our solar system. That is why the name 3i was given to this object. That was the 1i Oumuamua and the 2i Borisov. So 2 more interstellar objects have actually entered our solar system before itself. Do let me know in the chat what were the years of that. It was pretty recent. Okay, so just in the last 4 to 5 years, we have actually seen 2 such objects, and this is the third one that has entered into our solar system. And after it entered, it moved closer to the sun. As it moved closer, there was a process called outgassing that actually took place. That means the materials, the contents of this rock actually warmed up, and eventually it started releasing gas when it passed close to the sun. And this process is called outgassing. Because of these gases and dust being vaporized, being sublimated, all the materials tend to flow backwards, and therefore they tend to form a tail. So if you look at the structure, the basic structure of a comet, this is what kind of image you will usually find when you, of course, Google it out. So basically, this is a schematic image, of course, not a real image, but it's very easy to understand the parts of the comet with the help of such a schematic. So if you look at the parts of a comet, the first and most important part is the nucleus. That means the solid icy core, the core which is made up of that ice and dust. Due to the solar wind, as I spoke about, all these materials actually eventually vaporize. They get sublimated. And few of you have actually answered to me on the chat as well that sublimation means conversion of solid to gas. And that's exactly right. It is the conversion of any material from solid state directly to the gaseous state without going into the liquid state. So because of that extreme heat and the solar wind, all that material gets converted from solid to gas directly. And that gas itself actually forms a layer around that nucleus, around that solid material, which is called as the coma, which is the glowing cloud as the ice vaporizes. Once that happens, These gases tend to move backwards and then they form the tail, which is called as the ion tail. Why ion? Because this is the tail of not simple gas, but ionized gas. This entire gas actually gets ionized. It gets converted into ionic form. That means it gets charged because of this solar wind. However, there was another component, if you remember, that was part of this comet. What was it? Well, it was the dust itself, right? That dust actually tends to form another tail for itself, which is called the dust tail, which is the stream of dust. Now, why did the dust actually form a different tail compared to the iron? Do let me know in the chat why the dust is forming a different tail. What's so special? But that means that the comet will actually have two tails. Usually, we are able to see that dust tail, but we are not able to see the iron tail. But if we magnify through our more powerful telescopes, we are able to see both the tails of the comets. For example, in the case of Halley's Comet, whenever we have observed, we have been able to detect both the tails. Well, that reminds me, do let me know when we are going to see the Halley's Comet once again. Well, if we talk about this object, that is 3I Atlas, then why 3I Atlas is so exciting? There are millions of rocks, millions of such comets, which are actually moving all around our solar system. Many are coming and going as well. So what's so special about this? Why is this exciting? Well, the first important factor is its path. The path of this 3I Atlas is a very specific kind of path, which we call as the hyperbolic path or trajectory. Trajectory simply means path. So it has something called a hyperbolic trajectory. In contrast, the other kind of trajectory is actually called parabolic trajectory, which means that an object which moves around the sun it will go to some distance, let's say up to the orbit of Jupiter or Neptune or something, and it will then again come back. That means it is having its orbit around the sun. It is maybe an elliptical orbit, but it will have a parabolic trajectory. Hyperbolic trajectory suggests that it is not actually moving around our sun. It has come somewhere from very far away from our sun, and it is just having a roundabout around our sun. Okay, and that roundabout, that hyperbolic trajectory, if you go into a bit more detail, it actually happens on a plane which is different from the plane of the solar system. There is a specific term which is given to the plane of the solar system. Do let me know in the chat if you actually know what is the term given to the plane in which all the planets and our sun are aligned in the solar system. This comet does not actually follow that plane. It has an entirely completely different plane. On the screen, you're not able to see that properly because it's in 2D, but actually in three-dimensional, it has a different plane, which suggests it has come from a completely different system, probably a different galaxy. We still don't know. But what's important is that it has come from outside the solar system. Therefore, it's an interstellar object. And since it's an interstellar object, the thing which makes it exciting is its chemistry. It is an object which is coming from outside our solar system, which is coming from a place which we do not absolutely have any idea about. And that is very important because it will help us to understand the chemistry of that place. It will help us to understand if there are any kind of new chemical or biological molecules that are actually coming from any other kind of star system or galaxy. And these are the reasons why 3I Atlas is so exciting. As of now, based on the information that is available right now, there are several different kind of chemical deductions that have been done. Some of them have been actually proven through research papers, while some others have not been proven but are under research yet. So do not go to your conclusions after looking at this data. As of now, we are only going to look quickly into some of the data that has been scientifically proven by scientists and researchers all around the world. Well, now, since it's an object that has entered into our solar system, and I just said that since it's an interstellar object, it will eventually go out of the solar system, right? So what is its timeline through our solar system? So before we move on, as you can see, even in the background, you could see that there was a certain plane in which all those planets and sun were actually aligned. And that plane is called the ecliptic plane. So some of you have actually answered, and that's very good to know. So that comet, in fact, not only this 3I Atlas, even the previous two, Oumuamua and 2I Borisov, none of them were actually along that ecliptic plane. And that was also another reason why these objects have also helped us to prove Einstein's theory of relativity in some way. So it's a homework for you. If you are interested in that way, then you can go home and find it for yourself how that actually helps to prove Einstein's theory of relativity as well. Well, with that cleared out, let's understand the timeline, what this object actually has. If you remember, I had begun the timeline from 1st of July of this year. So let's begin with that because that was the point when we detected it for the first time. So the first detection was on 1st of July. If you look at the scale of the solar system, this is somewhere where that comet was actually present. Okay, if you closely notice this large blue colored line that you can see near which the 3I comet has been labeled, this is actually the orbit of Jupiter. So this is the point where we detected it for the first time. After that, the second detection, second most important position was the closest approach to Mars. That means it passed very close to Mars, actually less than half an astronomical unit. For those of you who are not aware, astronomical unit or AU is a unit used to measure the distance at the planetary and galactic levels. So do let me know in the chat that how much does one astronomical unit actually mean in kilometers? Let's see how many zeros people are actually putting up. Well, that closest approach to Mars is gone, and that was on 3rd of October. For people who have been regularly following, you might be aware there were a lot of news when it was having closest approach to Mars, because many of our rovers, many of our orbiters were actually pointed towards that comet so that we could get good quality pictures and more information about the comet. Then came the perihelion. That means the point where it was closest to our sun. And that was the period of peak activity because at that time there was the maximum influence of the solar radiation, the solar wind, so that its tail could be formed. And that was on 30th of October. So between 30th and 31st of October, this perihelion took place. But now the further part of the timeline is going to happen in the future. That means the closest approach to Earth is coming up on 19th of December. That means the clearest possible view of this comet from our Earth will be near about on 19th of December. And following that, eventually it will, since it was close to the orbit of Jupiter, but at that time Jupiter was actually not present at that position. So it was not near the Jupiter. When it reaches towards the other end of Jupiter's orbit, there Jupiter will actually be waiting. And that will be a very important point for all the scientists and astronomers who are trying to study this comet. Because at that time, many of the orbiters, many of the spacecrafts, which are actually meant to orbit Jupiter and its moons, for example, the Europa moon. Okay, there is a mission, very famous mission called the Europa Clipper, which is actually a mission to study Europa, that is one of the moons of Jupiter. So these spacecrafts will be actually pointed towards the comet itself so that it can be studied. In fact, Europa Clipper, and then there is also European Space Agency's Hera probes. These probes are meant to actually, we are planning to actually make them go through the tail of this comet. So that has already happened. That closest approach to Jupiter will come up on 16th of March, but passing through the tail has already happened before itself, but yet we have not got the data due to certain reasons, which we'll eventually see. Before going to that, since you are clear with the timeline, let's first of all see that what are the scientific observations. That means the observations that we have actually deduced scientifically that, okay, these are some things that are very concrete about this object. So before I proceed, I can see that many of you have actually given me the answers in the chat, very big numbers. I have got 150 million kilometers. I have got 149.6. So I have got many big answers as of now. So one of the correct answers is also being shown. So thank you so much for the answers. Let me just give it a few more minutes before I get many more answers regarding the value of astronomical unit. Also, make sure that you are attending not only today's session, but also the session that will be happening next week. That will be on Curiosity rover, one of the finest rovers that we have actually sent to any planet, and we'll look into the achievements that it had and also what's so important about such kind of rovers. And based on the sessions, we will have a mega quiz on 28th of this month. So make sure that you are attending all these sessions, the 3I Atlas, which we're having today, the Curiosity, which we'll have next week, and the one which already happened last week on the moon's soil, that is Sticky Lunar Dust session. If you have not attended, you can go back and attend it on our Spacetopia website. Because if you attend all these three sessions, you will get the maximum chance of winning that quiz and get a chance to actually win certificates as well as very exciting and cool prizes. So make sure that you are attending these sessions and then participating in the quiz, which is going to be conducted on 28th of this month. I will give you more details for those who might have missed it in the beginning. I will give you the further details towards the end. So stay tuned. Well, if you look at the first scientific observation, the most important was the water clue, detection of water in the nucleus. Then something came up eventually as we were observing, one by one, the news articles were coming up. Then there was brightening and coloration that took place, unusual changes in brightness and colors. Then there was a unique kind of tail that was getting formed. We just learned that the comet will have a tail. Of course, it will be pointing away from the sun, right? Because that's the direction in which the solar radiation and the solar winds is coming up. Well, it not only developed that tail, but it also developed a tail pointing towards the sun. So that was something very unique about it. And then, of course, the interstellar chemistry itself. That means a chance to study materials coming from another star system or probably another galaxy. So let's quickly look into them one by one. So if you look at the first observation, then the first observation was that this comet was actually releasing massive amounts of water away from the sun itself. Remember, I told you that the materials actually get sublimated. That means the ice and other stuff should directly convert from solid to gas. There shouldn't be any liquid water. But this guy, he was actually releasing huge amounts of water away from the sun. But then when we studied it scientifically, we found that it was actually microscopic ice grains which were heating up and sublimating faster. Okay, so although it appeared like water, those were actually microscopic ice grains. So still they were ice and eventually they were actually sublimating into gas. But that in turn, what it means for us, it shows that how life's ingredients may have traveled between stars. So just like the 3I Atlas is carrying water today, billions of years ago, there is a chance that there was some other such kind of comet or maybe any other, object that carried water or some other kind of molecules, and it came, struck our Earth, and began life. Who knows? One of the theories is actually based on this. Do let me know in the chat what is the name of that theory in which we assume that life has actually come from outer space. The next important observation was brightening and coloration. Observatories recorded that there was very rapid and extreme changes in the brightness of the comet. As it moves closer to the sun, its brightness should gradually increase. However, they recorded unusual changes. However, then they studied it properly and understood that it indicated the presence of certain ionized gases or other rare molecules. Because if it actually had the normal molecules that we expect to be in a comet, it wouldn't have behaved in that way. However, since it showed rapid and unusual brightening, it indicates that some rare molecules, some rare ions may be present. And that means there's a chance of revealing new chemistry and understand how comets actually evolve near other stars, not only our sun, but other stars as well. Then comes the exciting, interesting sunward tail, a tail which was very strange because it was pointing towards the sun. You can consider it as an anti-tail, a very faint but an anti-tail. So eventually scientists concluded that it was actually the heavy dust particles that are lagging behind and they are creating an optical illusion. So there is not technically a tail over there, but it was actually an optical illusion of the dust particles that was getting left behind because of their weight itself. And it was not only unique to this 3I Atlas, but there have been certain other objects also in the past that have shown us that there is an anti-tail that might get formed at some time. However, that in turn helped us to understand that propulsion is different from natural dust effects. Whatever the dust has an effect on the comet, that is different from propulsion. That means that is different from the way the comet actually behaves naturally when it comes closer to the star. So it helped deepen our understanding about how comets actually behave. And of course, if you remember, just a few minutes ago, I talked about two very important probes which crossed through the tail of this comet. And they were the Europa Clipper, which you can see on the left, and the ESA's Hera probe, which is on the right. And they observed that they may actually cross its dust trail. So that dust trail crossing is already done. However, we have not yet got the official data because of the NASA shutdown and all these things that are happening across the world. However, we believe that this data eventually, whenever it comes up, it will provide insights into the unique characteristics of the interstellar comets. And it also became a first chance for us to study the materials from another star system, because for the first two, that is Oumuamua and 2I Borisov, the tails were not so big that we could actually push through any of our, spacecrafts through it. So we couldn't study. But this time we actually did that. In fact, it's a homework for you to find out how big this 3I Atlas actually is compared to Oumuamua and 2I Borisov. You'll be amazed to actually learn about that. So, with the scientific observations out our way, the final question that remains is that, is it really an alien spaceship? What about the conspiracy theories? Are so many scientists, so many astronomers, so many people simply wrong? Are they plotting conspiracy? Well, if you look at this alien mothership theory, well, you will literally find hundreds of articles. In fact, there have been over 400 research papers that have been published just in the last 4 months on this 3I Atlas. Okay, so you can see even in the image right now below, you can see that, the face of a person. His name is Avi Loeb, a very famous Harvard astronomer. And even he speculated that it could be an alien spaceship. However, he himself has also given many scientific evidences that it actually behaves different from a normal comet, but there is less chance that it can be an alien mothership. And again, all of these basically point out to the fact that the object might be an alien spaceship from a lost civilization, probably. Thousands of years ago, probably there was some kind of Egyptian or Harappan or some other civilization. And to find that civilization, some alien mothership is actually coming up. And, that would be actually terrifying if that happens. But something which is very practical and which is actually creating a lot of problem for us as astronomers, as passionate researchers, is that there are many rumors about data which are being hidden by NASA due to the shutdown. So people who are aware, you might be knowing that NASA is currently shut down due to various political and economic reasons in the US. But due to that, many of the data, many of the pictures, many of the research papers that are getting published, that are getting collected within NASA, are not coming up in the public. And that might also be the reason that we are not able to get concrete data as of now. As things eventually resolve and as we get the information out of the box, we'll be able to even uncover all the NASA cover up that is taking place. Well, those are just the conspiracy theories. But what's important is that how and when can we see this 3I Atlas? Because as astronomers, the most important thing for us is to go out and watch the night sky for objects that are so exciting. Well, the first thing is, when is it the best time to look at? So if you remember the timeline, the date for closest approach to Earth was shown. So do let me know in the chat box quickly that what was the date for the closest approach to Earth. So therefore, November to mid-December, and I personally recommend try for the first couple of weeks in December, where you will get a good visibility just before sunrise. Best dates are November 10 to 25, but I recommend that you can see even with very good visibility if you are looking in the east just before dawn towards the beginning of December. But the important thing is that you won't be able to detect it with the help of your naked eye because it's too faint to see clearly. In fact, if you closely notice the map at that time, the closest approach to Earth is also not that close. It's as far as almost Mars's orbit. Okay. So it's not actually very close. Binoculars are a good way to look at it. People who are aware, you might know that what I mean by 10 by 50 millimeter binoculars. So they might be able to actually reveal a faint glow, but for best visibility, I suggest you to use a small amateur telescope. Even a 4 to 6 inch telescope is more than enough. It can show a tail and a bluish tint, and you will be actually able to detect the position of 3I Atlas. And in fact, the fun fact about 3I Atlas is that this is the first interstellar object that you actually can try to see from Earth, because the other two were not at all visible. They were only visible to the most powerful telescopes that we have on our Earth, the most powerful observatories, or even the most powerful space telescopes. So this is the first one that we actually can see even from our rooftops if we have a good dark sky and if we have a good quality telescope. So do make sure that you do not miss out, because we still have a couple of months before it actually goes out of visibility through our telescopes. So make sure that you're going out and you are actually enjoying the view of this mysterious interstellar object that has come up. This is all about 3i Atlas that we have till now, but we haven't yet concluded whether it's an alien mothership, have we? Well, to be very frank with you, there are very less chances that it will be an alien mothership, or it's some kind of object that is coming from a past civilization, of course, because there might be many other objects that come in the future. There might be 4i, 5i, 6i, and so on. And every time we human beings have the tendency to presume these objects as alien or interstellar. But yeah, although they are interstellar, as of now, based on the objects that we have observed in the past, we do not think that it will turn out to be an alien object. Okay, but yeah, do keep your eyes out, because you never know when somebody might just pop out of it and then drain our entire planet. So do make sure that you are attentive and you are constantly updated for that. And to remain constantly updated, do make sure that you're following us on our social media channels. You can scan this QR code. You can follow us on Instagram, on YouTube, and all our social media pages. And you can stay updated on regular space facts and astronomy news. And if you have any queries, you can contact us in this email ID. Now, before we give you a closure, let me just give you a tour back to the exciting prizes that are waiting for you at the end of this month. So, as I already told you, there is a very exciting session on lunar dust called the Sticky Lunar Dust Test that has been actually done last week. So you can go to our Spacetopia website and you can actually rewatch that session. You can even perform that experiment for yourself. It's a very fun and engaging experiment. Do make sure that you perform that. Once you have done that, I presume that you have attended today's session. If not, you can again go and attend it. And you should also make sure that you are attending the fun and exciting session coming up on the Curiosity rover next week. Once you have the information about all these three, you will be best fit to attend the quiz which we are conducting at the end of this month. A mega quiz on the Kahoot platform where the top three winners will be awarded with certificates and cool and exciting prizes. So make sure to enhance and to maximize your chances of winning, you're attending all these three sessions. And another very exciting announcement for all of you, especially those who might not have followed us in the previous session, is our flagship contest called the National Astronomy Challenge. So whenever you go to our website, you will see this NAC tag, which is on the top. It constantly blinks up. So when you click on it, you will get an option of registration and study material. You can go and have a look at how you can actually prepare and all these things. So this National Astronomy Challenge is an all India national level challenge where you will participate and you can actually get to win a sponsored trip to the Udaipur Solar Observatory, which is located in Rajasthan, one of the most fascinating places for any amateur astronomer to actually go. Not only will you get the chance to visit it, you will also get the chance to learn more about such kind of telescopes, how real astronomers and scientists actually perform their tasks, and how the data is collected and ultimately converted into those beautiful images that we even often see when we Google up things. So it will be a very fun and exciting trip for you, but make sure that you need to actually win the contest. So you can visit this website called nationalastronomy.org to know more about this. Just as a disclaimer, I suggest you that you participate through your school. Even if you can do it individually, I suggest if you participate through your school, you will get added and more benefits. And before I close up, I would also like to give you a small link where you can actually go and track this exciting object called the 3i Atlas across our solar system. So here you can see this link called as the skylive.com. Through here you can go, and even the link will be actually shared in the live chat. You can look at that. So this particular link actually shows you the live tracking of this 3i Atlas throughout our solar system. So you can see that it's present somewhere over here. You can increase the date, the calendars from here. For example, it's 16th, 17th, 18th as I'm moving. And I can choose over here on the left side, you can see that I can choose that how much 1 second actually means for me. So that means you can see that if I increase 1 day, that means 24 hours. So how many months or how many weeks it will actually go further in this orbit. So eventually, as you increase the date, you will see that how the 3i atlas is moving. So you can literally see the exact position of this comet, where it is in our solar system, at which date and at which time. And you can explore the same thing about many more objects which are over here. It's for you to explore out. And with that, I would like to thank you all for joining us today. If you have not joined live, I suggest that you watch our other sessions and maximize your chances of winning the mega quiz that we have at the end of this month. So I believe that that gives you a clear idea about what exactly is 3i Atlas, if it is actually a alien spaceship, or whether it's simply a comet from which we have a lot of science to learn from. So, all right, thank you so much for joining and hope to see you in the next one. Till then, bye bye and good night.